This is Michael Woodward, and this is Season 3, Episode 216 of the Jumblethink Podcast.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast, where we interview amazing entrepreneurs about their journey of turning dreams and ideas into reality. Along the way, we're going to share some tips on how you can turn your own dreams and ideas into reality too. Our guest on today's episode is Jim Beach. More about Jim in a moment. Now let's jump into today's episode. Hey there, welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast. My name's Michael Woodward. I am your host. We've got some exciting things going on for you today. I'm super excited about today's guest. Every once in a while, we like to change it up and we do Friend Friday. This is a Friday where we bring on an entrepreneur who I know as a personal friend. Today's guest, of course, is Jim Beach. We're going to get into that conversation in a moment. Before we do that, we want to thank our sponsors for today's episode, Mighty Travels and Opportunity in China. Now, Mighty Travels will help you find the perfect fares for your next trip. Simply go on over to mightytravels.com/jumblethink to learn more about them. OpportunityInChina.com can help you find educational opportunities and teaching opportunities abroad. They're doing some great stuff. Make sure to check them out at OpportunityInChina.com. Now, today's guest is Jim Beach. Jim is a corporate speaker, award-winning radio host, leading expert, and best-selling author. He does a lot of entrepreneurial endeavors, and we're going to talk about those and so many more. He's worked with companies like UPS, Wells Fargo, SunTrust Bank, Chick-fil-A, Toshiba, Citicorp, Sam's Club, and many, many other leading corporations around the world. To learn more about our friend Jim Beach, simply go to jimbeach.com or check him out on LinkedIn. You can find all of those links, of course, on his website at jimbeach.com. You can also find him at schoolforstartupsradio.com. Now let's join the conversation we had with today's guest, Jim Beach. Hey, Jim, thanks so much for being on with us today. How you doing?
I am great. It's my honor. Thanks for having me.
Now, I met you back in September of 2018 at New Media Summit, which was meeting you was a highlight along with some other great people there. But since then, we've gotten to know each other a little bit more. And the more I get to know you, the more I like you. So I'm excited to have you on to tell a little bit of your story.
Well, back at you. I like you too, Michael. It's been fun to get to know you. And, you know, your listeners, a lot of them don't know you personally, but I do. And I will vouch for you in public, Michael. In public spaces, I will say good things about you.
And I appreciate that a ton. I want to start off with your story of entrepreneurship, because the more I dig into it, the more we talk, the more I've read the stuff on your website, the more I kind of go, wow, this guy has some crazy stories about entrepreneurship. So tell us about your story of getting into entrepreneurship and why you chose that path instead of saying, hey, you know what? I want to go work for a corporation and be a lemming along the conveyor belt of corporate America.
I did want to be a lemming. I just wanted to be the chief lemming. And unfortunately, Coca-Cola decided that I wouldn't continue to be a good employee. So I was summarily dismissed from Coca-Cola.
Oh, wow.
And my life dream was shattered and obliterated, Michael, at the age of 24. Everything I want disappeared. Wow. And they said that all of my bosses and co-employees, everybody had gotten together sort of behind my back and come to the conclusion that I should be an entrepreneur. And I was like, excuse me, what was that word you used? Say that word again slow, because I don't know that word. And they were like, and they said, you should go and start a business. You're not, qualified to be a corporate employee. You don't think the right way. And it shattered me. It blew me away. And so I became a construction worker and went and pounded nails for a year.
Wow. Now, for you, looking back now, do you see that as a gift, or is it still something that you look at and go, I wish I would have stuck it in the corporate world and shown them and said, I'm gonna make it work?
All of the above. I'm super glad that it happened. It was the greatest thing ever. I still think that I could run Coca-Cola better than the people who are doing it today, and I would love to have that challenge and to just see how that would go. Uh, but it was a great thing. I am certainly much happier this way, and there's nothing you can hope for greater in life than to be an entrepreneur. And the reason I say that is because I believe that when God creates you, he gives you a basket, he, she, whatever, gives you a basket of skills that you will use in your life. And also some bad things thrown in there too, some rotten apples as well. But the best way to utilize that basket is by being an entrepreneur, and it challenges you and pushes you in a way that no other vocation or profession can. So best thing that ever happened to me was being shown the door at Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I can relate to that. For me, my journey was working in churches, and they couldn't pay me anymore because the economy sucked. And so I had to go get a job, and did that for a while and started my own journey. I look back and I say, more people should take the risk of entrepreneurship. The things that are happening in our communities right now in the corporate world really set a lot of obstacles to that journey of entrepreneurship and small business. But I think there is a path there for so many more people to flourish instead of just being a lemming on that death march of corporate America.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than a job.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us a little bit more about you. Go pound nails for a while on the construction site, and you're obviously saying, "Hey, this isn't working. I got to do something." When did you go, oh wait, they said entrepreneurship? What does that mean? How can I do it? What should I do? How did you determine the next step to that path in the journey for you?
Well, I was still resisting. I decided to go to architecture school, and so pounding nails was sort of to prove that I liked that space. And I loved that space. I love pounding nails. To this day, one of my favorite things to do is go build something and cut wood. That's just a lot of fun. And so I decided to go to architecture school, and by every standard I should have been accepted, but I was rejected. And this is sort of one of my first entrepreneurial stories. I i rejected their rejection, and I basically badgered my way into one of the top architecture programs, master's programs in the country at Georgia Tech. And the whole idea was, hey, I'm going to have to support myself. I'm getting old. I'm too old to have my parents really, support my dreams. And so I decided to start a business, and I made a list of all the summer businesses that I could think of: landscaping and pool cleaning and summer camps, and all of the stereotypical summer stuff. And I don't like uh cutting grass. I get a histamine reaction, and so I start to sweat and get all drippy in my nose. And I had been to summer camp a lot as a kid, so I decided that I would just start a summer camp business that would allow me to go to architecture school 9 months a year. So that was the original plan. And I did eventually get accepted to my dream program. The summer before that, I started my business, and we did $56,000 in revenue that summer, and coincidentally had $56,000 of expenses. Bootstrapped the entire thing with about $2,000 off the credit card, and was able to get it up and running. It was a summer camp business, but we had a very good distinctive niche, which back in the 90s, and I'm talking the early 90s now, it was sexy, unique, and compelling. Today it's kind of trite. But we did summer camps for non-sports kids at high-end locations like MIT, Stanford, UCLA, Georgetown, Sorbonne, Cambridge, Oxford, all over the world. We ended up with 89 locations. And what we were teaching was computer skills, movie making skills, all of those sort of digital things that are very normal today. Building websites, had 9-year-olds building websites. But what we were really doing, and it took us a couple of years to figure this out, and this is why it was so amazingly successful, growing to 700 employees, was we were taking unhappy kids, Michael, and teaching them that you are cool. You may not know it now because you're not on the lacrosse team, you're not a football player, you're not a cheerleader, you're not the most popular kid in school, but you are something else, which is called smart. And that's really what's cool. And eventually you're going to be what's called boss. And eventually these people that are teasing you are going to be called employees. And that's really cool. And so we were able to take that message and kind of wrap it up in a curriculum. And we would secretly tell the parents, that's what we're doing. We're going to teach your kid to like himself. He's going to come home with a best friend. He's never had a best friend. He's going to have one in a week. And then we would fulfill on that. And it became incredibly cool and successful because we were taking hundreds of thousands of kids and making them happy. Nothing cooler than that.
Yeah, for sure. And now we know that as STEM and STEAM programs, which are really cool things. And I love that has become popular now. That space of using your brain, using intelligence to build community is a thing now, and people really say, hey, this has value. For you, how did you go through this list? You go, I can cut lawn, I can go clean the pools, I could start a summer program. How did you really figure out which idea was the one that was worth pursuing? Because that's something that you do well, is that you see ideas, and sometimes they're bleeding edge innovative, and sometimes they are innovation on top of existing ideas. But how do you filter out the process of which ideas you're going to pick versus which ideas are you going to say, not worth my time?
I don't. I let the market decide. That's what I think is so cool about it is I'll do two or three things. So I'm doing two or three little startup, I think, ideas now. I'm doing one with you, and I got a real estate thing going on. All of a sudden I discovered that I own a house I didn't even know about. And I'm doing my little paint thing. I got a little paint business going on that we can talk about.
Yeah.
And I will pursue each idea until its logical conclusion entrepreneurially. So if I try really, really hard, and I've got examples of this, I had a medical product that I was ecstatic about, but you know what? I just couldn't find people to buy it. I could get the association to say, hey, yeah, you're right, we'll be your partner. And then I'd go to the 4,000 members of the association and just couldn't sell it. They wouldn't buy my dog food. And the market decided that. So I gave up on that one. But, something else I was working on at the same time, the marketplace said, hey, it is working. And so I try to, limit my investment. I'm a huge bootstrapper. I'm just really cheap, and see what is successful. So my paint business, I've gotten a patent on a paint that blocks Wi-Fi so that your baby's nursery will be a Wi-Fi free zone that will protect the baby's brain development. One of the worst things for the development of a baby's brain is a Wi-Fi signal. France has banned Wi-Fi within 100 yards of every school or preschool in the whole country, and it looks like Europe is about to do the same thing. Our paint solves that problem. So now, last weekend, we got in a house and painted a room and got the little meter out, so we have scientific readings now of how successful our paint is. Now we will start going to the marketplace, and if I can sell it, I'm going to double down on it. If I can't sell it after 3 or 4 months, I'll throw the paint in the creek and move on. I'm not going to decide. I'm going to let the marketplace decide. I'm going to work hard on all my ventures and see what catches on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what you do, we call it micro experiments, where you take and you go, what can I do at a low level of engagement from the standpoint of risk? What can I do to test this concept and see if there's traction? And if there's traction, what's the next step to then take it to the next level?
Exactly. Yeah.
Love that for sure.
I hate risk, so I'm trying everything I can do to reduce risk.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that in our second segment. We're going to talk about creativity and risk and passion, because I know those are three things in entrepreneurship you hate.
Yes.
And I want to talk about that. So we're going to come back to that for sure. I want to pivot to what you're doing today outside of the paint stuff, the project we're working on, some of the other stuff. You are a best-selling author. You are of 2 books. You have a radio show and a podcast. You have a magazine that you work on. You're doing a lot of stuff in the world of media. Tell us a little bit about that journey of saying, hey, I want to start school for startups.
Well, after I sold the summer camp business, I was 31 and unemployed and had nothing to do. And Georgia State University called and said, "Hey, do you want to teach international entrepreneurship? We read about you in the paper, and you've run businesses all over the world now that you started." And so I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll teach some entrepreneurship." And I made a bet with my class the first semester. And for those of you who don't know, Georgia State is our downtown university. They offer lots of night programs for people working full time. It is one of the highest ranked part-time MBA programs in the country, and that's the program I was teaching in. So really bright, hardworking 25, 26, 30-year olds taking classes at night. And they were as smart as I was. And they said, this entrepreneurship stuff is hard. And I said, no, it's easy. And they said, no, it's hard. And I said, no, it's easy. And they said, no, it's hard. And I said, I'll bet you that I can show you how easy it is. And they said, we will take that bet. And so I made a bet with my class that I could start a business that semester, make it cash flow positive that semester, repay all of my startup capital that semester. And they got to choose the country and the industry that I would start the business in. And so they were really funny. And this was right after 9/11. And so they said, well, we want you to start a Pakistani furniture company. And you have 3.5 months, go. And I won the bet. I was able to get the company up and running and have sales all within 3.5 months. And if you go to my LinkedIn profile, and I'd love to connect with all of you on LinkedIn, if you go to the very bottom of my experiences on LinkedIn, you'll see a company called Timeless Chair, and there are pictures there of the product that we ended up producing. It was a beautiful 100-year-old Killam Persian rug that we would then cut up and use as the fabric on a new American-sized, American-style armchair, like the big old daddy armchairs. They're those things. And they were beautiful pieces, works of art. We could import them for $450 and sell them for $3,000 or $4,000. And so I won the bet. Anyway, I did that bet multiple times and started to get a reputation for doing this and starting businesses in class. And a reporter heard about this, and I made him a bet. I was like, if you can get me a book publishing deal, you and I will write the book together. And a week later, we had a contract with McGraw-Hill to write about this and to start talking about the philosophy that became School for Startups, which is low risk, zero creativity, and zero passion. And so the book did well, went to number 9 on the bestseller list. And by number 9, this is one of my pet peeves, Michael. The best-selling author no longer means anything because there's
everyone can be a best-selling author.
It means nothing, right?
Yeah.
My book went to number 9 on the whole damn list, up there with Hillary Clinton and that kind of thing, on the whole damn list. And so that's just one of my pet peeves. I'm gonna anyway, and started doing radio interviews to promote it. And the thing that shocked me was McGraw-Hill did nothing to promote the book. And I was like, what about book tour? And they're like, we don't do that anymore. You're not Hillary Clinton. You don't get that kind of treatment. Good luck. And so I started contacting radio stations and podcasts myself and saying, put me on your podcast. And that turned out really well. And I was able to get on hundreds and hundreds, 500-600 different shows. And even places like CNN were eventually covering me, and the Wall Street Journal. I did all of that myself, totally for free. And eventually that turned into my own radio show. Someone said, hey, you're really good at this interviewing. I'm hearing you all over the place. You should have your own radio show. And it was sort of like that book, The Secret, which I think is one of the dumbest books on earth. The idea that if you want something bad enough, the universe will just give it to you. Well, I did so many radio interviews that eventually the universe gave me a radio show. The way that happened, though, was I worked my arse off doing hundreds of interviews and getting to know producers and things like that. And so I started my media stuff by happenstance. It was not on my radar. It wasn't something I planned on doing. But eventually when you're offered a show and then it turns into a weekly show and then you get added to more and more stations, and now we're on 24 stations around the country. And let me be very clear, some of those are horrible junky stations, some of those are great stations. I'm on a great station in St. Louis, and some are good, some are bad. That's just the way the world works, right? um, but nevertheless, I've really enjoyed it, and it's been good for my career. It helps continue to sell books. I get to meet cool people like you. But the most important thing, and this is why I would encourage all of you to do something like this, to start a podcast, to start getting out there, is that it drives my sales for free. My marketing, anything I want to sell, I market for free, and it sells well, and I don't spend anything on it. So that's what I think is so cool. And you mentioned my second book. Thank you very much. It's about this exact topic. It's about how to get free radio and podcast marketing by using just the simple tools. And the book is part of the In 30 Minutes series. We joke that if the Dummies series is too complicated for you, then you read the In 30 Minutes series. And in 30 minutes, it describes how to do all of this. It's a great marketing vehicle for any business.
Super, super cool. I want to know, you talk about creativity, risk, and passion. We're going to go deeper into that, but do you find purpose in what you do from a business standpoint, or do you find purpose outside of business?
Well, both. My primary purpose is to reproduce and to perpetuate my DNA, right? Isn't that what the environment, or the scientist would say my purpose is? I also I like having a family, and I have a large family by today's standards, and I enjoy that. So I find tremendous purpose there. But I also find tremendous purpose in business and in life. And some of that purpose is me making money. And I have absolutely no problem being a capitalist, and a proud, flamboyant capitalist. I believe that making money solves problems better than not making money. And my paint is the perfect example of that, Michael. I'm going to make money and solve a problem and protect babies' brains at the same time. Now, I wouldn't be doing that, and babies' brains would not be protected if I also couldn't make some money doing it. And that's, I think, the thing that so many nonprofits forget about. That the best way to solve a problem is to make money solving that problem. The problem gets solved faster if money is being made by somebody.
Yeah,
So
I agree with that. I worked with a great nonprofit in Northern California that said, you know what, for the sustainability of what we're trying to build and the community we're trying to impact, what we need to do is build businesses that then fund the nonprofit. And that's what they did. Instead of saying we're going to rely on the donations of kind people, they said, you know what, let's generate money to fund what we're doing and make it a good path forward. And I think more nonprofits need to be doing that.
yes, but I find purpose in everything, and I find purpose in hopefully using radio and books to help other people. I find purpose in making money and building products that people are willing to pay for. I find purpose. I'm also very active in high school education and teaching high school entrepreneurship. I find great purpose in that. There's real purpose in cuddling with a little 3-year-old baby. That's fun too.
Yeah, absolutely. For you, what is one challenge you're currently working to overcome in your own business?
Well, you should have already figured it out. I have shiny ball syndrome and get diluted quickly.
Okay.
So, for people who do business with me, they need to pay attention to that and make sure that I'm not getting distracted.
Yeah.
You're lucky right now, Michael, because the thing that you and I are working on is my number one obsession at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for a long time. And so I'm really, really, really convinced that this is a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm excited about it too. And in the weeks to come, people listening to this right now, you're going to be able to find out some exciting news of things we're working on and how you can be a part of that too. For you, what's the next big goal you have for the business?
I want to sell one more.
Okay.
I want another exit, to be honest. Yeah, that's my next goal, is some sort of exit. But I also have goals, and I think this is very important. I have goals in every category. So I have book publishing goals. I have radio goals, and there are multiple types. I have volume goals. I want to hit certain numbers, but I also want to win certain accolades, right? So those are different types of goals. I have paint related goals. I have weight related goals. I have spiritual goals, religious goals, family goals, spousal goals. You need to have goals in every single category of your life, not just the business ones. So
Yeah, it sounds like what you're saying basically is that unless you're intentional and being purposeful about the decisions you make, then you're not going to live a life of significance.
yeah, you said it better than I did. Oh, you said it really well. Yes. I want to do well in everything I do. And if I am going to do it, I'm going to try to do it well. And that's why I don't do some things, right?
Yeah,
I'm not going to do golf because I know I'm not going to do it well. And so therefore it is 100% excluded from my life. But the things that I've chosen to do well or to do, I think that you should try to do them well. So, if you're going to become a parent, you need to spend time not learning how to give birth, which is what people take classes on, right?
Yeah,
You shouldn't read what to expect when you're expecting. You should read a book on what happens on day 3 when the hospital sends you home. That's what you need to focus on. So I read a lot of books on parenting and know all of the different parenting methods, and hopefully have raised some good kids and continue to do so. And I have to be a social media marketer. So I spend a lot of time trying to learn how to do Instagram better, which I just despise, by the way. I could go into hours on that, right? But those are the things that as entrepreneurs we have to do. We have to focus what we're going to get, what our goals are, what our long-term plans are, and get really, really good at that and exclude the rest of the stuff.
Super cool. We will be back with Jim Beach as we go deeper into the conversation. We're going to talk about creativity, risk, and passion, and how that is not a recipe for success in entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about being contrarian. We're going to talk about the new book a little bit more. And we're also going to talk about building a business model before you start. We'll be right back with Jim Beach. Today's episode is being sponsored by our friends over at Mighty Travels and OpportunityInChina.com. Here is a little bit more about our friends over at Mighty Travels. How much time do you spend looking for the right flight for your trip? Do you spend hours searching all of the different travel websites only to find out that once you booked your ticket, you missed out on a better price? Well, our friends over at Mighty Travels are here to help you. They want to make sure that you get notifications in real time so that you can score the best tickets at the best price, saving on average $190 per ticket. Well, they are doing cool stuff, so you want to make sure to check them out. Swing on over to mightytravels.com/jumblethink. That's mightytravels.com/jumblethink to learn more about how they can help you know when the best fares are hitting the market so you can grab them up before they're gone. We also want to thank our friends over at opportunityinchina.com for sponsoring today's episode. Here's a little bit more about them.
At the dawn of the 19th century, forward-thinking people moved to the commercial centers of Europe. Moving into the 20th century, America welcomed millions into the land of freedom and opportunity. It is now the 21st century. Many of the successes and fortunes of our generations will be made in China. To learn how you can seize opportunity in China, follow the Opportunity in China podcast. The Opportunity in China podcast is available anywhere podcasts are streamed, or you can visit our website at opportunityinchina.com.
If you are enjoying today's conversation, you don't have to let it stop here. We have over 200 more episodes on the Jumblethink podcast, and it's easy to check it out. Simply go to jumblethink.com/iTunes or jumblethink.com/Spotify. It'll take you right to the app, right where you can subscribe where you can leave us a rating and review and leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love for you to check out our past episodes. Now let's return to our conversation with Jim Beach. We are back with Jim Beach. All right, Jim, before we get rolling on this segment, we've got to ask, how can someone find and connect with you?
Very simple. I am at jimbeach.com or Jim Beach on LinkedIn, Amazon Jim Beach for books. I'm at Entrepreneur Jim on Twitter, but that's not really the best way. LinkedIn is the best way, or there's a connect button on jimbeach.com.
The first memory I have of you that I can think of was New Media Summit, where you're up on the stage and they're having a conversation about something. I don't know exactly what it was, but you look and you say, "Steve, I completely disagree with you." And listening to your episodes, just listening today, actually, to one of them on millennial money and on the future of sales and also on procrastination, you like to have that opposing voice and prod people to actually back up what they're saying. Where does that contrarian spirit come from, and why be contrarian?
Well, that's a really hard and difficult question, Michael. A lot of it, like so many Freudian things, goes back to my youth. They're going to make me cry. I was a miserable kid. I hated life. I used to pray every day that God would kill me by a bus. Wow. And and that's why the camp business made so much sense to me, was because I was the customer that I was solving the problem. And by the time I was running the camps, I had already learned to like myself and learned that there's a process to that can be taught, and it's something that we can do. And that's why those camps were so successful. And because I was so unhappy as a kid, I think I became contrarian. It was just one of my response or defense mechanisms to being picked on and being unhappy and all of those things. And one of the things I've learned as an adult is that the popular view is very, very, very frequently wrong. So many things that we believe, I have done research on, and I just don't believe are true. One of my favorite ones is that eventually we're going to run out of oil. Well, if you look at the data and look at the charts and the graphs and actually study it, no, every bit of science indicates that we will advanced technologically long before we run out of oil. And there's a trite expression, we didn't run out of stones in the Stone Age, right? I don't think that we're going to run out of oil. Very contrarian view, and the market doesn't believe that either, because the price of oil is going down over time. Water is more expensive than oil, for goodness sakes, or gasoline. So I've looked at so many things, and I found that I can make money and stand out and be unique by being contrarian, that there's a really strong market niche there. And if everyone's doing something one way, then there's a really good business opportunity in the other direction. So the point you were making when I disagreed with Steve is that his argument was you can't make money podcasting. Well, you and I both know, Michael, that's just not true, And your podcast is, and I don't mean this in a mean, derogatory way, it's new and young, but you still have been able to get sponsors. And my podcast is a little older, and I've got some sponsors. They come and go. It's a continual fight, right? But it's still always a viable opportunity. And I've just been able to see many, many times in situations where there's a great opportunity in what is considered contrarian. Another word for contrarian is also disruption, right? Uber is a contrarian way of running a taxi service, right? So there is a word in entrepreneurship that we embrace, this disruption word. And I think that I'm just doing it a little different with contrarianism, right? And it's a good niche. You stand out in a crowd being the contrarian. People will remember that person.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the statements that you said is that people are drawn not to the guests that you have necessarily, but to the host, because that's the continual, consistent throughout a show. And so that person needs to have a personality that stands out, that has a voice, that has an opinion. And by doing that opposing view, you have an opinion, you have a voice, you stand out when so many other people are just going along for the ride.
Yeah, as a podcast host, you have to talk about yourself and be the center of attention. Why do you listen to your favorite whatever, blank, Sean Hannity or Rush Limbaugh or someone on the left, whoever? Who do you listen to? The reason you listen to these people is because you like that person and you want to hear what their thoughts are. I don't really care who the guest is on the NPR shows that I listen to. I'm going to listen anyway, and the guests are sort of incidental. So I think that's just another contrarian view. Another podcast thing is you have to listen to the show, right? When you do 500 shows, you don't listen to them before you go on them. I'm sorry to be blunt, but that's just the case. Or if you have Ken, you don't have the time. Or if you have Ken Blanchard on your show, like a superstar like that, or a Simon Sinek, I guarantee you that they did not listen to your show in advance. So don't get all fliffy about it. They're just not going to do that. So
Yeah. Well, and one of the things we talk about is seeing the unknown in business, because so often those are the people that excel. Steve Jobs saw an opportunity to create a smartphone in a space that no one knew existed. And it went against trends and expected outcomes. And so being contrarian gives you a superpower in a way to see an opposing thing that does open up those spaces like you're talking about, to say, oh, everyone else says that you have to make money in podcasting by doing X, Y, Z. Well, why don't I go this route where no one else is doing? Now, all of a sudden, you're not in a bloody ocean. You, to steal from that book, you are in a clear ocean where you don't have any predators eating your lunch. You're eating your own lunch there.
Yes. I've been told that a lot of things that I have done couldn't be done.
And that seems to fire you up even more. The fact that someone says you can't do that seems to be a driving factor to say, well, let me show you.
I certainly still have a chip on my shoulder, and I enjoy being what people never expected.
Yeah. One of your first things that's said in your intro is that creativity, risk, and passion are not good for entrepreneurship. Talk to us about that.
Right. So if you were to ask the average person on the street, what is an entrepreneur? They would say an entrepreneur is a creative person taking a risk, starting a business that they're passionate about. And I think 99% of the population would agree with that definition. But that definition then sets certain images in your mind. You will say, well, I'm not creative, therefore I'm not qualified to be an entrepreneur. Or the myth that, hey, I have to take a lot of risk, and my boys are about to go off to college right now, so now's not a good time for me to take the risk. Or I don't really know what I'm passionate about. I'm really passionate about gardening, but I can't make a living as a gardener, right? I can't live off $32,000 a year, right? My boys are about to go off to college, remember? And so these myths keep people on the sofa. And that's what's so disruptive about these three things, is that they are the excuses for your inertia. Why are you not starting a business? Well, when I get my idea, when God throws a lightning bolt at, oh boy, am I going to run off then and be creative and start the coolest business. When God gives me my idea, right when the boys get out of school, that's when I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the risk right then.
One day syndrome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we go through them and we find out that, I hate this data stuff again, but data pops up. London School of Economics, you don't get any more prestigious than that, and Babson University, the number one entrepreneurship college university in the United States, right outside of Boston, did a study and found out that 93% of businesses are copies of other businesses. And we can go through the list: Hyatt, Hilton, Marriott, Days Inn, Comfort Inn, right? The Ritz-Carlton. But if I were to start a new hotel chain, you know what they would call me? A hotel entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
that's what the article in the paper would say. Entrepreneur Jim Beach starts a new hotel chain with partner Michael, and that would qualify me as an entrepreneur. And a restaurateur is an entrepreneur. But one of my favorite things to point out, Michael, is that there's this book. I don't remember the name of it. It's been around for a long time. It's been on the bestseller list. And in the book, the main character, there's like two parts to the book. And in the second part of the book, there's a main character. And the character has to get born, but they can't find anywhere for the character to be born in, not even a hotel. So they have to put him in a manger, And this book is talking that Bill Marriott stole the idea of hotels from the manger dude. And so, but is Bill Marriott still an entrepreneur? Well, he's a famous entrepreneur, right? So creativity isn't part of the formula, apparently, right? So if I want to start a business, what I should do is find out what someone else is doing successfully and do it also. But I want to make one huge distinction. I don't believe in copying trademarks, patents, or copyrights, but I am going to copy your model. I'm just going to make it better. So I'll give you a little secret. My summer camp, we had a competitor. The competitor had been around for 10, 15 years before we started. They were located at Clark Crest Resort in Connecticut.
Okay.
I was located at MIT and Stanford.
Okay.
Where do you want to send your kid?
MIT and Stanford.
So I stole his idea. I just did it better than him.
Yeah.
I executed better than him, right? But the idea was 95% a copy, 100% legal though. His camp started at 3 p.m. on Sunday. Guess what time my camp started?
3 p.m. on Sunday.
You're quick. And so I'm just not obsessed with creativity. And so if you want to be an entrepreneur, go find an idea and copy it. It's simple.
So would you say someone like Steve Jobs or Walt Disney, was creativity part of their process then?
Yes, but just not as much as we give them credit for. Were there theme parks before Disneyland? Yes, they were.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah, absolutely.
They weren't nearly as nice. They weren't as permanent. But we certainly had state fairs, and a lot of people forget about this. But all of the original famous Disney rides, in particular, It's a Small World, were exhibits for big companies like GE at World's Fairs. So I think the 1954 World's Fair in New York had 4 or 5 rides, and all of them were built by Disney. Then they transported those to Southern California. That became part of Disneyland, right? So he wasn't the first person to think that up. He wasn't the first person to have a silly animated character in a cartoon. He didn't invent that, right?
Right.
He just did it a lot better. Disneyland was safer than all of the little state fairs that came around, right? Those were infamous for being dangerous, right? Disney was safe. It was clean. He did it better than it had ever been done before. So yes, we have to give them credit for being incredible entrepreneurs, but let's also realize that they were really good at copying stuff too.
So when do you take the distinction of saying, you know what, this is a place we can innovate in and turn this idea into a new idea using innovation? Or when do you say that this idea is good enough, I just have to continue this model? So like hotels is a great example of a model that you can replicate where there's not much you have to change to be successful.
Well, that's not true, Michael. Hotels now are becoming infinitely more creative. So we have the E-Loft series or something like that, where they're very modern and trendy with a European design flair, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas we have other hotels who are saying, not only will we give you incredible service, but we're going to pick you up at the foot of the airplane. We've arranged to go on the tarmac and pick you up there.
Yeah.
at the Ritz-Carlton now has that service, right? So I think that they're still requiring constant innovation, uh, begin because of that disruption word, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we do have a huge new player on the hotel space that's doing disruption, that's proven that if we I think they might have caught the hotel world with their pants down, so to speak, with that whole new Airbnb, largest hotel company in the world. They don't own a single hotel room, right? And there's the disruption again. If we had been sitting around waiting, we're going to be out of business. And I think that we're going to see a lot of hotel chains go out of business, just like we're going to see a lot of taxi companies go out of business and a lot of other spaces.
So how do you decide when it's time to innovate or when it's time to just
Always,
always
always.
innovate?
You never stop. Never
Okay.
stop.
Yeah.
Never stop. It's the 1% Kaizen, Kaizen, the Japanese word for continual improvement. It's part of the Deming process of zero quality defects, zero defects. Is it possible to have a car that's perfect? No.
No.
But
Yeah.
Toyota's getting awfully damn close, And so the continual innovation, the continual improvement, if you're not doing that, you're going to go out of business.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things killing Apple right now is they lost their innovative edge. They're not doing much to create something like Steve Jobs was able to do to create vision for innovation.
No, it's been a long time since Apple, 10 years since they've done something cool. Samsung seems to be the more innovative company at the moment. But we have to realize that we're sort of at the end of the life cycle, or we're getting very close for those products, for the smartphone. It's ready to do whatever the next step is, which some company in Iowa is working on, where the entire thing is implanted at the base of your spine, and you just think from now on, or something like that, right? We don't know what the next thing is, but eventually we'll all look back, at the iPhone and go, just like the what was that thing, the personal communication thing that died very quick.
Oh, BlackBerry?
Yeah, thank you, the BlackBerry.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or the pager,
Yeah.
or the rotary phone. So eventually it will lose out to something, and probably Apple will not innovate that themselves. They'll probably buy it with the $280 billion of cash that they're sitting on.
There's a reason they're sitting on that cash.
They can't figure out where to spend it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yes,
yeah.
Which is a really sad statement.
Absolutely. I want to circle back on your new book, Free Radio and Podcast Marketing in 30 Minutes. Why is radio and podcasting such a viable marketing tool right now?
Well, two things. There's 10,000 opportunities a day. 10,000 interviews need to happen. And that's because the host can't fill up the time by themselves. The easiest way to produce radio or podcast or TV is to interview somebody. And so it is the perfect opportunity. There's 10,000 of them a day. Most of them, almost all of them, are free. And so the opportunities are there. When you are on someone's show, it's assumed that you are an expert, or otherwise you wouldn't be on the show. And so you get the credibility transfer effect from the host, from the show. And you're going to have me on here. We're going to talk for 45 minutes. That's 45 minutes of me talking about the products that you should buy from me. And I didn't pay for that. And instead, I could have run an ad for 30 seconds that cost $500. And so me being on here is really like, $41,000 of free airtime that is marketing money that I didn't have to spend. And so the ability to go and do 2 podcasts a week from now on forever and build that into your process at your business allows you to go out there and sell and sell and sell so cheaply, because you need guests and I have something interesting to say. That's one of the reasons it's cool to be a contrarian, because people want to publish contrarian things and interview those people. Why did I get a deal with McGraw-Hill in under a week? It was because my thesis was so interesting that we have to hear that. You're going to defend that entrepreneurship has nothing to do with creativity, risk, and passion? Well, I've got to read that because I know you're wrong. So the book gets published. So, it's all about being able to present something unique, compelling, and sexy. And if you can do that, then you've won the game. Everyone's going to want you on their show, and therefore you get tons and tons of publicity. And you're a web guy, so you'll love this one.
Yeah.
One strategy, and I know one guy who does radio for one purpose only. That radio show is going to link to your website. And you get the SEO, the search engine optimization benefit of having hundreds of really good radio websites linking to your website, driving up your search engine ranking. That's a reason there to do it.
So true. Yeah. Yeah. It's free SEO, and it's a big part of SEO now. So
the links, you get the free backlinks from great sites.
Yep.
And so what better could you ask for? That's a strategy in and of itself that people need to realize how important just that is.
So remind us how people can find and connect with you and your books and everything else you're doing.
JimBeach.com, LinkedIn, Jim Beach. I'll connect with everybody. I'm a lion on LinkedIn. And Amazon, just search for Jim Beach. There's School for Startups there, and then the In 30 Minutes book. And I have a special gift I'd like to give people.
Yeah.
If they reach out to me about the book, about the radio marketing book. So half of that, you have to get a list. You have to find out where all these shows are and the email addresses. I have thousands of those that I've researched and paid people to research for me. If you email me at james.beach@att.net or hit me up on LinkedIn, I will send you whatever list of mine you want. So if you want to be on 500 sports podcasts, I'll send you that list. If you want to be on 500 spirituality shows, I'll send you that list. If you want to be on 500 relationship shows, I'll send you that list. If you want to be on 500 fitness shows, I'll send you that list. 500 small business entrepreneurship shows, I will send you that list as a special gift for being a friend of you, Michael.
Jim, that's incredibly kind of you. So if you're listening right now, I encourage you to take Jim up on that offer. It will be worth it. And in a moment, we'll be back with rapid fire questions with our guest, Jim Beach. We want to take a moment and thank our sponsors for today's episode, Mighty Travels and OpportunityInChina.com. Here's a little bit more from our friends over at OpportunityInChina.com. Have you been searching for a way to change your career or social prospects? Do you see the world around you changing and haven't quite figured out what path you should take? You are not alone in seeking opportunity. Visit OpportunityInChina.com for access to scholarships to attend university in China, or if you have a bachelor's degree already, OpportunityInChina.com provides access to jobs in the educational sector all across China. Now, working in China is not only often well paid, but it will place you among 1/5 of the world's population, boosting your social network, bringing you more deeply into the story of globalization, and opening up doors you never knew existed. Seize your opportunity now. Visit their website for more information at OpportunityInChina.com. We also want to thank our friends over at MightyTravels.com. Here is more about them. I don't know about you, but I love to travel. I just don't like looking through all the websites to find the right fares to the right locations that I want to travel to. Well, our friends over at MightyTravels.com are helping you get better rates to the places you want to travel, often saving up to $190 per ticket. You should check out MightyTravels.com/JumbleThink to learn more about how you can use their service to get the right trips booked for you at incredible rates. So swing on over, check it out, MightyTravels.com/JumbleThink. Now let's jump into rapid fire questions with Jim Beach. We are back with Jim Beach to do rapid fire questions. Jim, are you ready for rapid fire questions?
Let's go.
All right. As a child, What did you want to do when you grew up?
Run Coca-Cola.
What is one tip you'd give someone with a big idea or dream and they don't know where to start?
Start on Google. Every question in the world is answered on Mr. Google. So you don't know how to get an LLC, go to Mr. Google.
What is one big lie about entrepreneurship you want to break?
Entrepreneurship is not about creativity, risk, or passion. It's go start a business, copy someone's idea, spend less than $5,000, reduce your risk, and be passionate about your God, your church, your synagogue, and your mosque.
What is one change you'd like to see in the world?
I'd like everything to be green.
What do you want your legacy to be?
Really God-fearing, good children who make the world a better place.
What inspires you?
Cool people like Michael Woodward.
What is one book you think every dreamer or entrepreneur should read and why?
The Millionaire Next Door, to learn that millionaires don't spend money. Millionaires are not flamboyant people. Millionaires drive Ford F-150 pickups and shop at Walmart, not Neiman Marcus.
How do you define success?
How happy you are.
What is one trend you're currently excited about?
Twitter going out of business.
What is one habit you find helpful in your life as an entrepreneur?
The first 30 minutes of the day should be spent on marketing every day.
Wow, you're the first person that's actually said that.
I'm a contrarian.
That's a good point. What is one thing you wish you would have known when you started out?
How can we not market for the first 30 minutes every day, Michael? Then we get ups and downs. We have too many projects and then not enough projects, too many customers and not enough. The marketing has got to be the consistent lifeblood of your business. You've got to do a little bit of it every day, or you're going to end up with no work next month.
Well, I found it interesting that you put it at the beginning of the day. I don't always put mine at the beginning of the day. Now, I have marketing strategies put into my day, but I never thought about consolidating it and making it the first thing I did.
Well, it's the most important thing.
That's a change of
It's
perspective.
the most important
Yeah,
thing.
it's true. Yeah. So it's a good change of thinking for me, even. What is one thing you wish you would have known when you started out?
Smart is sexy.
Okay. If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you do? Run Coca-Cola?
Yeah, I'm George Costanza. I want to be the George Costanza architect. I wish I didn't finish architecture school, by the way. So I got in, was a great student, did not finish because the business was doing so well. I would give anything to be an architect.
What is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
I have built houses for other people. I want to build my dream house, with the indoor waterfalls and, all that.
As we wrap up today's episode, we always like to leave you have a final thought. What's your final thought for us and our listeners today?
Get off the sofa.
Okay.
There's nothing good on the sofa, so get off of it and maybe throw away your remote control, because they add no value to life either, right? Never watch Sports Center or The Real Housewives of anything ever again, right? If you're going to watch TV, watch educational TV, but get off the sofa and start the business or grow the business or something. Push harder, further, faster, more, now.
Very cool. Jim, thanks so much for being on with us today and giving us an opposing view to entrepreneurship that really makes us think outside of how we normally do things.
It's been my honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Once again, we want to say thanks to Jim Beach. Check him out at jimbeach.com. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you have, you can check out more of what we've done through our podcast. We have over 200 episodes there. It's simple to connect. Simply go to jumblethink.com/iTunes or jumblethink.com/Spotify. It'll take you right to the app, right to where you can subscribe. While you're there, leave us a rating and review and let others know what you think about today's show. And don't forget to tune in every Tuesday and Friday right here on this radio station at 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific. Here's my big takeaway from today's episode. Over and over again, Jim shared on how a contrarian view can give you a competitive edge against your competitors. If everyone else is going left, there is a wide open space to go right and make a difference. Just because something is always done one way doesn't mean there isn't a new way to solve the same problem and give you a powerful advantage over everyone else in the marketplace. So today, think about in your space, in your ideas, in your dreams, in your entrepreneurial endeavor, what is it that you could be doing differently that sets you apart from everyone else? What is a problem that they're not solving that you could innovate and create a new space? The status quo might be the best solution, but it might not be. If you ask the hard questions, if you look for other solutions, you may be able to blaze a new path and ultimately change the world around you. So today, take some time to think about what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. And think about the possibilities of taking a new approach or solving the problem in a new way. This may open up new doors for your business, for your life, and for the world around you. So get out there, dream big, and change the world around you.
Ôtez tout ce qui peut vous gêner ou tirer votre attention. Cherchez la meilleure position. Les bras et les jambes légèrement espacés. Étirez-vous doucement, mais complètement. En avant, en arrière, sur les côtés. Vous êtes une autre personne. Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.